till I came here.
House of Ashes. It's a good game. Ashley Tisdale. Disney, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Beautiful blonde. I wouldn't say this game did her just like the way she looks. I'm not even gonna go there, but interesting cast selection when you think about it. Like Anna Medan, like Bobby, okay. But I think between Little Hope and House of Ashes, I don't know. This game's about just as good as the other games. This one was it was different. A little more upbeat, a little more brighter. I've noticed throughout the games that each game kind of has its own like color palette. I mean, they're all really dark, but Man of Medan was definitely blue. The ship and the water. I guess Little Hope was just there wasn't much to it. It's just dark. You're walking along a street most of the time. It wasn't really like a setting, I would say. But then here it's kind of really light, really like tan, orange, desert. This game is really cool though because it amps up the energy and the vibe from Man of Medan and Little Hope by like 10. You know, you got like this ancient civilization, you got modern day, you got war, guns, demons, vampires, alien. I don't even know. It's wild. Pretty much anything you would expect or not expect. It's just the main Man of Medan had ghosts, paranormal. It wasn't really that simple, but Little Hope had witches, basically. Kind of the main ingredients. This one was like a little bit of everything. Even thinking about it now, I don't really understand. I don't understand it really, but I guess the thing to take out of this one is Pazuzu, the demon. And I loved it so much because my favorite Exorcist movie is Exorcist the Beginning. It's just one of the evilest movies like I've ever seen. Like demons and ghosts and vampires, monsters, it's all really cool, but when it's literally, you know, the difference between good and evil, that's big to me because that's the ultimate fight. It's not even just like a lower level creatures and this and that. Like this is straight up like demented kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I don't feel like this game goes you know, this is definitely no grotesque or gory, violent way to depict this kind of stuff as much as like The Exorcist would do, but it's tough with these games because I gave it a hard time last time, but I don't think it's so much they hold back, it's more everything's so slow and everyone's moving at like it's really framey almost, like everything it is that they do and they walk around, everything's just really slow. When they're shooting the guns, it's like I feel like they have all the pieces there, it's just done so slow where it doesn't have any impact or like effect or like a punch. Because once again, this did feel like a very PG-13 kind of scenario. And it's like, hey, if you want to do that with the witches and ghosts and stuff, fine, but we're talking like demon stuff, man. I mean, it can get pretty gnarly. These games, I don't give it enough credit where they can go hard. They can do what it is that they need to do. But it's tough though because they're really leaning on the whole like, hey, what works well with movies? What are very popular big movie things that have been done so many times for so long? And this game tries too hard to replicate that and it just doesn't work. I've seen it done better and bigger elsewhere. Maybe to like a very casual horror fan, this could be good, but to me, it's like it's not enough, man. And like, hey, I realize not every little thing has to like scare you or gross you out or. Because here's the thing, this had demon stuff in it, very apparent, but there was so. It's tough because there's so many other moving pieces that it kind of took away from that a little bit. Like, when I first even realized that Pazuzu was in this, I was like, oh fuck. And then these games just get weird. They just get weirder and weirder as the more you play them and the more further you get into the story. It's not even a matter of like, wow, Pazuzu is in a video game. I would have never thought. The only other place you might see something similar like that in is some sort of Exorcist game. I know there's Exorcist games out there, which is kind of weird, but yeah, I was like, dude, this is intense. You got like this ancient Middle East, I wouldn't say quite Egyptian, I don't even really know, honestly. This mix of what happened back then, today, now. Well, not really today, this probably would have took place like early 2000s or something or whatever, but yeah. Bottom line is I'm happy Pazuzu is in here, but I don't feel like they did enough with it. I think they had elements that contributed towards what I know of that demon, but yeah, it's tough with things like this because I get into certain things like after already having a certain knowledge of these subjects beforehand, and then I'm sitting here like, this isn't the first time I got exposed to Pazuzu. These aren't my very first horror games. These aren't my... I've been surrounded by horror stuff for so long that it takes a lot to really impress me, and I just hate how close these are. This isn't quite like, I know there's a Saw game as well. There's a Blair Witch game, there's like movie license specific games, Lionsgate, mostly. that are probably the closest thing to something like this with what it can do, other than the Telltale games. This very narrative-driven, single-player story type thing. But I hate these games because I can't ever just figure them out. They're so weird. I can't even just play it and be like, ooh, that was really cool. That was really good. I always have to have some kind of mixed opinion because that's almost what it's wanting out of you, is this very, like, non-substantial kind of emphasis on what it is that this game is giving to you. I don't know. Cutscenes are cool.
Silence! Your words are meaningless here. Your blood will pay the debt our king demands. Your sacrifice will lift his curse from our land.
General Barato, forgive me, my lord.
So yeah, Pazuzu, my favorite demon. That when I watched Exorcist at the beginning, this was like years ago, and I've never seen something so evil. So, you know, you got the desert, Africa. Ugh, God, dude, it was one of the, I wouldn't say scariest, but like just disturbing movies I've ever seen at such a like younger age. And I've seen quite a bit, but this is definitely up there. It'd easily be in like my top 5 like favorite depictions of what it is that I see as horror, like what really gets to me or what I take seriously. Or I've seen the movie like 20 times. Got Father Mary and, you know, the kids and the witch doctors and, ugh, it's gnarly. Just all the blood and the holy war and the knights and the medieval stuff and just all the striking visual imagery. And that movie had a lot going for it. It's my favorite Exorcist movie. There's a lot of Exorcist movies, but I just love that battle of good and evil. Because when you get right down to it, when you break it down as much as you can and all the layers, and that's what it comes down to. It's us versus them, it's them versus us. It's like this inner battle, this exterior battle, this otherworldly thing, this thing that just defines so much. I think it can be a very unfortunate side of things, but it... And yeah, this game had everything it needed to do Pazuzu justice. And I can't say that it did, but I can't say that it didn't either. But whatever, I don't know, like the Pazuzu thing in all of its entirety of the game it's there, and I think it's there for like a familiarity type thing, but unfortunately it's like 1/10 of the game as far as like everything else it tries to squeeze in there, so it's kind of whatever really. I don't feel like they focused on it enough, which is good and bad in a way, because it's like, well, okay, it's, you know, it's a statue, it's a depiction, it's a thing, it's the history behind it. But they try to do so many other different things. But aside from The Exorcist, there was The Cave vibes, the movie The Cave. You know, demon bat things and being blind and supersonic and caves and kind of decrepit and humanoid, and And it also had like the Descent vibes, as above, so below, whatever that was called. Pretty much anything in a cave, underground. So there's definitely a lot more going on here than Pazuzu. There's a little bit of everything. You're underneath the earth. You're discovering kind of ancient research and things that, you know, got uncovered and was discovered before you. Like, someone was here where I am, where we wound up at, and it gets pretty wild. It's a fun, cool, wild ride. It's just, you know, once again, if we're comparing it to even more movies that are out there, more examples, like here, the movies are always going to do it better because it's a game. It's not a movie. It's supposed to be an interactive. It's all CG. It's not going to be like this fancy film thing with all these great angles and this and that, blah blah blah. So with that in mind alone, it's like obviously there's going to be kind of hard comparisons here because you have so much material to kind of, not that you need to compare it really, but it's like, oh, I'm reminded of this, I'm getting this vibes and blah blah blah. Like, all that ran through my head when I played this, and even when I watched someone else play it, is like all the movies that I watched related to it. And, you know, it's cool that there's kind of more of that, more of the movies, but it's not so much that this game is better than that, or as good even. It's just always going to be worse. And that's why it's like I recommend these games, because of the things that it talks about and surrounds itself with, but at the same time, it's unfortunate because you're just going to naturally be disappointed because it's trying to kind of do this thing that you've already seen it done, and your brain's going to keep telling you that this isn't good. And that kind of sucks. I wish it didn't have to be that way, but I guess that's what you kind of get and deserve for leaning so much on trying to kind of all these tropes and stereotypes and trends of the horror genre that this game is trying to replicate. Whatever though. It really doesn't matter. It's a game, like, you play it, it's cool, it's related to things you may or may not like or be exposed to. If you've never really watched any of that stuff or happened to, or if you're more of a gamer, maybe you're not really a movie person for some reason or whatever, even though it's all related anyway. And it all kind of goes together. So whether it's a game or movies, you're taking it all in. You're yeah, it's not a bad game in that sense. Like, it just depends on who plays it and what their experience is with the genre. But everyone's gonna look at it differently, like, oh, it's just a story game to me, it's just a horror game to me, it's just a horror story game to me. You know, it's just, oh, I like the studio. Everyone's gonna like this game, these games, for very different reasons. More or less probably the same reasons, just as far as being like some sort of a horror fan, but that's about it. Gameplay's cool.
Kill her.
By your command.
Yeah, some other points is that Ashley Tisdale, there's drama like there usually is. Military. Love triangles. relationship problems and issues and pretty much whatever is needed to kind of fill out the gaps. Kind of like the past and the present meeting up together, and it really is a basic movie plot. Like, here we are caught up in this thing that we're doing and in this place that we're at with these people that we're with, and there's something trying to kill us, and we're somewhere where we're not supposed to be. just all that. It's good though. I mean, the characters aren't as like annoying, or this isn't as simple and basic like I said of like Man of Medan and Little Hope. It's very, you know, because of the military presence, because of yeah, there's a lot going on. Some of those games you play and you're like, what am I playing? What am I doing? What is life, dude? What is... It's one of those games that makes you question, like, why am I sitting here? It's not the worst waste of time, but... I don't know. It's kind of like watching 10 movies at once. It's just trying to do way too much. And it needed to amp up the pacing a little bit because of how slow the first two games are, so like, I kind of get it, but... Yeah, I don't know, wow. Yeah, once again, the graphics improve. Definitely more next-gen friendly. The buttons, the controls, the mobility slightly improves, the camera. All those things, like what you would expect. These games have a really weird way of staying exactly the same, but somehow like getting slightly better at the same time. Because you'll either notice these changes throughout very easily or not easily enough. With here, it's kind of like this very weird middle ground somewhere. Yeah, it's not the longest game. You can get there in like one sitting, one day. It's gonna take a minute, but especially if you're not spending too much time like overthinking about too many things and trying to figure every little thing out. You're just playing, trying to analyze everything and this and that. Because I've seen that before, and it's like, dude, just play the game. Because like, odds are you're not gonna understand anything actually, and even if you do, yes, you are playing the game, but you're along for the ride. Just eat some popcorn, man, and like relax and chill. It's one of those, I think all these games, they get you to question things and think about stuff, but like, you know, just for the sake of creating a conversation and having something to talk about. But these are things that go so over our heads that it's almost not even worth bringing up or thinking too much about anyway, because, or at least for most people, for me, these are all subjects I really like, and these are all rabbit holes I went down, like everything that these games kind of talk about, and really relatable subjects, not things I focus on really nowadays or anything, but I'm spending hours on YouTube watching videos and pretty much anything mythology and history related and urban legends, just all that stuff. That's what a lot of these games revolve around, is things that are very not of this world, and or they are technically, but I'm just thinking about this game through like a normal person's eyes, or like somebody, anyone other than me, who looks at this stuff as more entertaining but doesn't believe in these kind of things like ghosts and demons, and it is gonna be a very passive like, oh, that was entertaining, and I don't believe in any of this stuff anyway, and it doesn't scare me, and because odds are you're gonna run into this game if you're someone like that, because you're either curious about it enough to like even play it at all for that reason, maybe even, or you actually believe in it like me and you're kind of just taking it all in, I guess. Yeah, it is a game that anyone can play, anyone can pick up, try out. You may or may not like it. It's awkward, it's clunky, it's kind of janky. But it's very clean and looks very good. It's too powerful. They try to make the game look so good that it kind of ruins it, honestly. But that's also what makes it a very cinematic movie compared type of game. So it's something they kind of have to do. Because at least here I kind of enjoy it in that way versus like, you know, the Telltale's cell shaded thing. It's like, it just looks like a really weird trippy cartoon, or I don't know. Yeah, there's some, like I was trying to get out earlier, some like emotional points. There's some relatable points. You might be like, oh, this guy really reminds me of me, or this girl really reminds me of someone I know, or whatever. It's not so, like in Little Hope, it was kind of just all strangers, very, almost too much of a variety of people that you would kind of happen to run into that are strangers coming together in this scenario we're all in. But this game's a little different because everyone kind of knows each other, but it's very, you got this guy and that guy and this girl and that, it's very typical. Which is fair, but it's not done in like a teenager slasher way like Man of Medan. You know, look at us getting into trouble doing something we're not supposed to. But it's not just like a bunch of strangers meet up like in Little Hope. There's just too many good and bad reasons to like this game or not like it. And I don't know how to feel about that because, like, with that said, it's never going, all these games, even so far, they have never once been like, wow, I am just captivated, 10 out of 10. You can't say that. You can't. Each game is just too different and too wacky and weird. And you want it to be somewhat grounded or like... I just don't think it's gonna happen. Like between the first game and the second game, you're like, okay, I'm kind of starting to realize what it is that I'm playing and doing here. But then by the third one, you're like, okay, I get it now. Yeah, House of Ashes. It's a good game.